It's close. It's about to happen. That football is about to no longer be here. Like, you're fighting that off, recognizing that you have to enjoy the now. I'm Jeff, Director Matthew in the house, Tom in the house. Of course, as always, you're you. Thanks for joining us. We do appreciate it. On Twitter, it's at Jay Cameron Show. My mom will be along in the second hour to gloat what is a certain victory, I would think. Good morning, Troy. Thanks for saying that to us, as I forget that it is morning time where you are. It's also bitterly cold where you are. Not so here today. Tom, what about you, baby? Nice and cold up there in New York, I would assume.
It is snowing outside of my window. It's a pretty good amount of dust that's coming down. It's collecting on the ground, and it's weird to be doing the JCS with snow outside the windows. It's very strange, but cool.
Try to enjoy it. Make your way to the pub down the street after the show for your first cold one of the weekend in the snow, buddy. How about that?
Actually going into the city tonight to go get a steak. Looking forward to it.
Boom. You know what today is? Today is marks 22 years. Can you believe this, guys? 22 years ago on this very date, it was a play that, we still talk about because I'm bringing it up right now. It's Tom Brady's lost fumble to the Raiders in a blizzard 22 years ago, which was then overturned and called an incomplete pass, which led to all of us learning of the league's quote-unquote tuck rule, which at the time none of us had ever heard of nor seen. And that is why the Patriots dynasty was born. You could argue. That kept the drive alive in the divisional round, a comeback win over the Raiders, and a win that sent them on to their first of 6 Super Bowls and the start of a dynasty that is unmatched. And much to the chagrin of all of us non-Patriots fans, certainly. But that was the birth of the run and the legend. And I can still remember where I was when it happened and watching the game. And because see, Tom, I was still on the air. I came in on Monday and talked about it. That's right. 22 years ago, something of significance happened in the playoffs, and I came in on a Monday and talked all about it. Just like maybe something will play out this weekend, and we'll come in on a Monday and talk about it. In fact, I was firmly established at this point 22 years ago today as a rising star in Tallahassee and beyond. That's exactly right. That's how long I'd been on the air. A good 4 years.
I was a sophomore in high school. I was a sophomore in high school. Now, I knew about the JCS about 4 years later. I would say second year of college is when I first found my way to the AM dial. I already did listen to the AM dial because I was a sports radio nerd, but it wasn't until about age 19, age 20. So you were doing those segments. I was none the wiser that my future landing spot, career, and a partner on the screen was doing his thing and building up his reputation.
Yeah, so it is kind of nuts because I will tell you that at that time, anything like that was that big, I would get so excited about because I would sit down and I would write out. You'd write it out. I would write out sort of my opinions of this, and then I would set over here. I had a whole different method. It's fascinating to think back on those times, but yeah, I can still remember that play. And God, I think if I were a Raiders fan, I'd still be livid. There's nothing about that's not a fumble. Everything about that play's a fumble. You can every time you're flipping around and you're watching like a Football Life and something like that'll come on. You'll see that replay. They did it with Woodson, and I remember watching that play again and going, "Man, that is an incredible reach." Like I'd never seen that before.
And it directly led to Tampa Bay's first Super Bowl because the disappointment for the Raiders franchise led them to trade John Gruden to Tampa. And I think it basically led to both because it makes those dominoes fall that Brady comes to Tampa all those years later. The dynasty doesn't build. So I think the tuck rule led to both of Tampa Bay's Super Bowls. And so I'm very thankful for that play in NFL history.
It's crazy. And then we end up playing that Raiders team, of course, and winning the Super Bowl and all that happened. It was a weird time. And the first of 2 Super Bowls the Bucs have won, Tom. Atlanta's still looking for theirs, and obviously the Dolphins can't win a playoff game to save their life. So it's been a long time for the other teams, and of course Jacksonville reverted back to being the Bucs this year. They had to believe they were on the precipice of something significant. Instead, they're back to being losers.
Well, and then you've got the New Orleans situation where they had the greatest head coach of all time who's not similar to Mike McCarthy in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If you look at their career resumes, he's not the same at all. They are not the same coach. That they only won one time. And honestly, they got a coach suspended for a year by the method that they did it, which was the Bounty Gate scandal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
You
did.
almost dismiss that Super Bowl, don't you? You almost just dismiss it.
You kind of do. You kind of do. I mean, good job calling that onside kick, Sean Payton. But you know what? You and Mike McCarthy, you're right there together, hand in hand.
It was also, so that happened January 19th, 2002. And then I think about this weekend's games, and, we realize, and I don't know that everybody is aware of this, but Green Bay and San Francisco have played the most amount of times. The most frequent postseason matchup is San Francisco and Green Bay, and the rivalry and the games of this magnitude in the playoffs didn't even really begin until 1996. And Green Bay won 4 of the first 5 games. The Niners have won the last 4. They take a 5-4 lead in the all-time series in playoff football between the 49ers and the Packers. I suspect that'll be 6-4, right? After this weekend. We think. Would you take, as I did, using the Hard Rock app last night just to throw some juice on the weekend that is? And I threw a lot more juice. I've got things going on everywhere. By the way, the Lightning with 7 goals last night, Tom. They obliterated your under.
Yeah, that was an outlier. If you look at their output in recent games, and then Minnesota themselves averaged 2 goals a game over their last 10. So
yeah, 7-3, just throw it out the window. It is what it is.
Like I said, if you're going to lose quick, so you don't have to sweat this thing to the end and worry about the empty net.
Agree with that. And oh, by the way, it's what we do when the power play's cooking, which it was last night. That was just 3 power plays up, 3 power plays down. Those 3 goals. Thank you very much. Suck it. Moving on. And when they do that, it can get loose in a hurry. Anyhow, that said, lot of things to have fun with this weekend, but appreciate this weekend because it goes by so quick, and then we're down to precious few in the way of games. And I don't count this. Many people do count this as their favorite sports weekend. The divisional round makes for one of these great sports weekends. And other people say wild card. I don't. I like divisional round more. The conference championships are a bigger deal, but this is the weekend where you get the meat and potatoes. You get it all. Now, some people would tell you their favorite weekend that is March Madness tip-off, like on a Thursday through that weekend where you get all the crazy, you get 48 of 63 games, tournament games. It's nuts. And some would say the Masters weekend, which is not that far away, but that's very select. And I think the Masters weekend might be the answer for people who live in cold weather, because they just like that. Okay, spring, here we go. It's happening. Others may choose Thanksgiving. I like that. It's a holiday, but I don't think of that weekend as the preeminent weekend. This is the good one. This is a really good one. And then you throw into the mix that Florida State's got a big game against Clemson to keep the streak alive. And this is a busy Saturday, Sunday for Nole fans.
Yeah, this is one of the better times in the calendar. I'm a big fan of the middle to end of October, not just because, as you would say, it's my birthday, but also because you have the Pennant Series, you have the World Series. There's always, in the latter Saturdays of October, huge college football games because you played all your patsies and you're into the meat and potatoes of conference play. Typically, Florida State's playing one of Clemson or Miami in that stretch of time. You got rivalry games. You got big games within the conference that are going to set the tone for the top 10. Now we need to look at the top 15 when we're having those conversations because of the 12-team playoff. But October, everything's happening. If you want some hockey, that just started too, which I always enjoy opening night for hockey. That's my time. But for the NFL, there is no better weekend than this one because most of the time, wild card weekend is full of duds. And then you finally get some good games for the divisional weekend. Now, the spreads are suggesting that you may not be. I wonder, though. I think these are going to be close games.
I get a weird sense we're going to get a lot better games. First of all, they can't be worse than they were last week. The one good game was Detroit and the Rams. And I got screwed in that game. But anyhow, one good game in that. And to your point, late October is incredible. The NBA, the NHL just begun. The NFL, college football rolling on, right? Just kicking ass and all that good stuff at that point. So, yeah, that's a good one. And there's a time every late October where I'm like driving to a restaurant to meet friends or doing, and I think, man, how do I set this up properly so I so I can maximize the viewing, maximize all of the things in the same, say, 48 hours, or 72 hours. Like, how can I do all of this? So yeah, I'm with you. Fun today, caught up. Just want to let everybody know, for content purposes, me and the boys got caught up on headliner questions. We didn't do headlines this week because I was sick, and we felt bad about that. And a lot of you were asked to submit questions, and you did. So that is now up. I think, Tom, you posted it. It's up now and ready to roll in the feed.
Yeah, so in the podcast feed, you got the entirety of the conversation. The channel, we're going to roll it out over several installments. So the first one is already out and live, and that's your opener, where you guys are talking about just routinely beating Miami on the hardwood down at Watsonville.
It's almost tiresome how often it happens. Yes.
And then the meat and potatoes, you get into talking about DJU versus Cam and their fit. And then also some questions about, I think, a rooting guide for Florida versus Miami, guys you're most excited to see in the spring, and then a little bit more hoops as well. So that video is available on the channel.
Guys we're most excited to see in the spring was a fun question to get today, Tom, because I, just off the top of my head, I started rattling off the guys, and, you could settle on one if you wanted. Most people would say DJU right off the bat, just because he's your new quarterback. It's the most important position. It's a huge acquisition. He's 6'5", 250. His good's real good. His bad's pretty bad, but we'll see what he is. I do think this, and I said this, and I'll repeat it here because it's worth the discussion. It's a fun discussion. I do think very highly of Mike Norvell, the coach. Now, I've said this before. Now, he's program building here, if you will. He's done all of that. But that was the emphasis for all of us, is to watch, like, how quickly can you get us out of the gutter and back into a penthouse? How soon are we going to be living the high life like we think we're accustomed to? If you're a certain age, you grew accustomed to things. You got used to winning. And, if you were going to school here in the 90s, that the thought of ever having a losing season never really crossed your mind. But then we crossed that bridge, sadly. It was a tough one to cross. Very steep, that bridge. And then from there, you realize that can happen. And you looked around and you saw other programs, and like Nebraska's still trying to get to the top of the bridge. But anyhow, that kind of stuff went on. But then you found your way out of that. You won another national championship. You won 29 straight games in a row. And then you thought, perish the thought of ever going back to that ridiculous climb. But then it happened again. It happened again, and you stumbled in the dark for a while. And then you thought, well, how quickly can Mike get us out of here? And that was the whole thing. But lost in that is how good a job he does typically of coaching up what he's got, putting players in a position to succeed, right? Having opportunities to win games that you ought not necessarily. That Florida State team, riddled with injury a year ago, probably shouldn't have gone 13-0. They did, and you don't feel like stepping back. But I was thinking about, with the acquisitions and the added speed to the roster, especially at wide receiver, and then you and I talking yesterday about what DJ is in terms of his physical tools. You love him in short yardage situations with that body, that size. I can't imagine a scenario where you would be reluctant, like last year, to run him. I mean, this isn't JT, who's fragile. This is a big man. This is a monster of a man. You need to utilize that size as a weapon. And then the other facet of what he does well, and the asset to his game, is the deep ball, is the cannon for an arm. So now you've gotten speed, but you've beefed up in short yardage situations. So you have a little bit of everything that gets you excited. And I also think what you have is a guy who went away and garnered some confidence finally, and now he comes here feeling good about who he is, and he has to ball out because this is directly impacting where he'll get drafted, obviously, but he's got real weapons, and he's got a very, very good play caller and offensive mind. And that gets me back to Mike, the coach, who's good at infusing confidence in players and getting guys, getting the most out of guys. Hell, he's taken quite a few guys to places I didn't think they could reach, including Jordan Travis, obviously. Now he's got a guy who didn't have confidence, does have confidence, and is here playing for him with weapons and a beefier offensive line and an opportunity, I think, to probably get even more sure of himself in spring. And all of a sudden, you don't really know, but you might have a more potent offense on your hands here because of the diversity of it.
Yeah, I would say instead of the who am I most excited to see, it's the where, and that's the offensive line. It was just so weird what happened to the offensive line versus, you look at spring versus fall versus what was on the field for the 12, 13 games during the season. In fall camp, they run blocked better than they pass protected, which was crazy because then when you get week to week, it was the opposite. Their pass pro was fine, but they couldn't run block and do the things that they wanted to do in that facet of the game. So are they improved there? And I'm looking at that group, especially when I'm down for that week or so when I'm watching camp. I want to see who they cross-train where and how they envision things. I mean, after discussing things with the Alabama reporter Clint Lamb, Ferguson is going to be a guard. Like, I understand that. But you've got some other players that are multiple in their skill sets. And if you have some young players pushing for time and pushing to be in that rotation of 8, then you might have flexibility at tackle where you thought that there was not going to be flexibility at tackle. Let's say that Lucas Simmons or Jalen Early or Julian Armella, by the time we get to middle August, have stepped up. Well, then what do you do with Darius Washington? Or what do you do with Robert Scott? Hell, what do you do with Jeremiah Byers? So there's a lot of parts that you can move around, but I want to see how they construct it. I want to see how much Richie Leonard comes in and takes a role immediately. Does he take it away from a Keandre Jones, who I thought was pretty good? We didn't run a scheme that necessarily fits his body type, but I thought Keandre Jones wasn't bad. So how do those two mesh together? There's just a lot of pieces there, because if you can run the ball, if you can run what you want to run in terms of gap, then at that point, this offense does have the opportunity to take off and become really special this year.
Yeah, and by the way, for those in the chat, no, DJU is not fast. Nobody thinks he is, but he's huge, and he's not too terribly slow-footed. So get me 3 yards. I don't need you to run 50 yards. I got people who can do that. No,
exactly. This is where it's a race to get to 3rd and 2. Yeah. You know, if you can get to 3rd and 2, chances are you're going to move the chains if you're going to run that type of offense. And I hope that they are. It looks like they're building to do that.
That's what it looks like to me too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, remember what it felt like to have the pressure on us when Tim Tebow, I'm talking in college, or Cam Newton as a Buccaneers fan. If they got into 3rd and 2, you're screwed. If they
and DJ is certainly not Cam Newton, but yes, to your point, the size makes it impossible. Well, I mean, you see this all the time. You got a guy that big, man. If he gets moving forward and you miss, let's say you're in man, and now you got to come up and make that. He's falling forward. He's getting 2 yards. He's getting 3 yards.
And look, I get how this works. The consumption will say that I'm comparing him to those 2 superstars. No, I'm not. I'm just saying that body type in 3rd and short is a weapon, and we're going to use it. And we're going to bludgeon people with that weapon.
I do want to say this, and I failed to get to it, but it was pointed out to me in a nice email that I received. I get a lot more emails these days. I appreciate that, guys. Jeff@warchant.com, sending me tidbits of info. You know what I didn't realize? Found this out from an FSU dean. I'll say this as we go to break. But this is pretty cool. We were giving kudos to the Bucs for getting a playoff win in a year where they were projected to win, 4 or 5 games at best. I certainly didn't think they would get past 6 wins. I thought they'd be terrible. So kudos to them for winning the division for the 3rd straight year, and not only winning the division, but getting a playoff win. The Bucs, of all things, and I'm not picking them to win this weekend, but the Bucs, of all things, are 1 game away from playing for the right to go to the Super Bowl. Say that out loud, given this, what we thought this was going to be. But here's what I want to do. I want to give kudos to a fellow Knoll. Brian Ford is the COO for Tampa Bay, and is a Florida State graduate from the College of Hospitality. Did you know that? I didn't know we had a guy that high up.
I did not. That is the ultimate Buccaneers. We consider ourselves Buccaneers, but if you rise to the level of COO as an FSU grad, that's a different level.
Yeah, he is responsible for all aspects of the organization's day-to-day business operations and community involvement. Under his leadership, the Bucs have ranked number 1 in the National Football League in the customer service experience 9 of the last 11 years while he's been there. I had no idea. And so I want to thank this dean, Don Farr, over at FSU for pointing this out to me.
Well, I think Brian Ford, maybe the PR team needs to
let's go
puff up a little bit. I didn't know that. Now, what I do know is that the shirt that you're wearing, we're both celebrating Tampa sports today a little bit.
Yeah.
But that organization, ever since
they win every year, they win.
The owner took over. He brought the Lewicki brothers in from the Seattle Seahawks, who forever the Seahawks were considered to be the creme de la creme. There's been cross-pollination in terms of collaboration, figuring out how to get more engaged. It's good to see, man, because legitimately you hear the national announcers talking about it now. But the downtown area has become revitalized. That's the Lightning owner's vision. So because of the medical school that's down there and some of the building that's been done by the old, what do they call it? It's now Sparkman Wharf, but it used to be called something else.
Yeah.
By the arena, that place is starting to come to life and the city's starting to expand. So it's good to hear that the franchises are meeting those demands in terms of making it a first-class experience. So way to go, Knowles.
Yeah, I had no idea, but I appreciate that kind of an email right there. That's good. That's better than the email that I get where somebody thinks I'm the world's biggest a-hole and they hate me and they think I'm responsible for everything that's wrong in society. I like those emails too, but for different reasons. I read those and I laugh and I think, this poor man, this poor ignorant, silly man. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Conditioning system doesn't check with you before it takes a break. That's why we're always ready to help. Any day, anytime, anywhere. And with our annual service agreement, there are no overtime charges. Ever. At Verno Heating and Air, we will always be there for you.
Verno Heating and Air Conditioning.
License CAC 116186.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future.
Man, I just got a text from my wife. She wants me to cook dinner and then snuggle on the couch next to a roaring fire.
So what's the problem, Dave? You already got the new grill and you're a great cook.
I got one major problem. We don't have a fireplace.
Man, that's an easy fix. Just call Hearth and Patio. They got a lot of fireplaces that can help you for your romantic evenings. Wood, gas, electric, and a ton of different sizes, man. Call Hearth and Patio today, 850-727-4282, or visit them online at hearthpatiotallahassee.com. Hearth and Patio. Ignite that spark in your life.
Give your business a facelift with a modern, consistent, creative brand overhaul from Curiosity Marketing Group. These days, it's not enough for your business just to have a standard website or a Google listing to reach your customers. Your business needs to stand out with eye-popping branding, modern web development, and strong marketing. And it takes a team to pull it all together. Words and websites matter. At Curiosity, we make the most of yours. Find out more at curiositymg.com.
I used to fight almost on a daily basis working on my business website. I'm a pretty smart guy, but I could never get it to function the way I needed it to, and I was losing customers because of it. That's when I called Curiosity Marketing. They listened, they understood, we collaborated, and in the end, they delivered beyond my highest expectations. Now, I can barely keep up with the work. They say the future belongs to the curious, and now I'm excited about the future of my business.
Find out more at curiositymg.com.
Hello, I'm Dana Brooks.
And I'm Jimmy Basic of Basic Brooks Law Offices.
Traffic cameras are everywhere these days.
And Basic Brooks has partnered with RoadProof to get access to all their vast network of cameras.
This is a valuable tool to help us search for evidence that could help you if you were involved in an accident.
If you've been hurt in an accident, call Basic Brooks and we'll find out if the proof you need is out there.
Call Basic Brooks and we'll do everything we can to help you come back stronger.
Call us now at 850-777-7777.
Excellence defines us, so we'll never let orthopedic pain and injury define you. TOC is a physician-led team of fellowship-trained specialists providing the highest level of orthopedic care in the region. With 12 centers of excellence and TOC Now urgent care clinics, our patients access affordable expert care fast. TOC, only experts. Schedule an appointment at teamtoc.com.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience a more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the latest news inside Florida State athletics. Warchant.com. Yes.
talking about what this team will look like, how they'll play as the pieces come together. And that kind of ties into something else that I thought about, which is every day I get up now, there's another story of another Bama player who's decided to enter the portal. That's a good thing. Let's keep that rolling, baby. I want to see those folks continue to reel under the realization that they're just another football program. Just like that. It happens quick. It happens very, very quick. I had a guy point out that Bear Bryant won 6 national titles, won, what was it, 80-something% of his games?
81%
of his games. Nick Saban, 6 national titles, 87% of his games? Are you effing kidding me, by the way? That is a remarkable stretch. But outside of that, Alabama coaches have won 60% of their games and won other title. That's it. That's all. And the thought was, do they once again revert back to that? Yes, that's what they've been. That's what they were. You know, that's what they were.
Well, today, did you see the quarterback that's entering the portal?
That's what I'm referencing.
Yeah. So, Nick having an office there didn't save him. He came there to play for Nick Saban, and now potentially he's going to Ohio State or to USC, number 1 quarterback recruit in this previous class. I don't know if Nick thought that he has a corner office and it's going to help everything be the status quo, but it most certainly is not. It's not enough to save.
Why would it? I don't understand this. Steve Spurrier does this in Gainesville. What good could that possibly do? Bobby Bowden wouldn't do it, and for good reason. He didn't want to lord over the next coach. It's just uncool. I mean, why would you do that? You can't think that's a good idea to have an office and oversee, unless you're taking like an actual job with the university, like you're the athletic director now. Barry Alvarez did that. Like that. I don't get it. Very difficult to operate when you're the next guy. Gene Stallings won a national championship at Alabama, and I love Gene Stallings in many ways. I love Gene Stallings more than I have any Alabama figure ever, right? Gene was awesome. And I got to meet him, and he was a super nice guy. Met him down in the Orange Bowl. And I always love that story. He and his son, and anybody that doesn't know that story, go back and research that. Awesome. There's a tearjerker of a special that they ran on him, and his son had Down syndrome, and he let him come to all the practices and be in the locker room and have a role with the team. And it's just a beautiful story. But the point would be, outside of that, most of my life outside of that, Alabama was nothing. You didn't think about Alabama in that way. Saban was the magic. Saban was the magic. Not that Alabama didn't have tradition, of course, but Saban was the magic. No, nobody has come close. Nobody will come close. And I don't know if that factored in Mike Norvell's decision as to whether or not to take the job or not take the job, right? I don't know, but it has to sit with you a little bit, knowing there is nothing that you can do short of winning, 3 or 4 national championships in 7 or 8 years. There's nothing you can do to live up to that. You're being hired to be fired. Well, you're not. Kalen DeBoer. What would DeBoer have to do here to keep that job? And how bizarre is it going to be to show up to work every day and here's Nick Saban chilling?
Oh, well, I mean, you're leaving a situation where the seat is the opposite of hot. I mean, you are the king. It's a throne at Washington for what you've just done, and your seat's automatically warm where you go. And for Mike, I mean, when you list all the things out that have to go right for you to succeed at Alabama, you're going to start behind. Look, this isn't exactly the last bastion of great recruiting coaching staffs. They're okay at it, but who are you taking with you to fill out those openings? How many of those guys are you bringing with you? How many of them have the power, the clout to retain the roster that Alabama currently has when you arrive? I'm talking about a week ago. A week ago, you arrive on campus and you got to tell kids, don't leave. Trust me. Trust in what we've got. Clearly, DeBoer doesn't have enough clout to be able to pull that off. Mm-hmm. So now, as it is talked about, I don't know if it's 100% true, but it would stand to reason that Alabama NIL comes at a discount compared to the open market because playing at Alabama comes with its own advantages. So I don't have to pay you every cent that Lane Kiffin needs to pay you to go to Ole Miss because you're coming to play for Nick Saban. You're coming to play for Alabama. You're going to make more money in the league. So when you think about it that way, the moment that Nick leaves, they're behind because their NIL game is not as strong. So you're playing catch up in an era that Nick Saban didn't arrive to Tuscaloosa in. Other institutions in your conference, in your division, already have these war chests. I mean, Auburn is extremely aggressive in the NIL game.
Very aggressive, yes.
Ole Miss is very aggressive in the NIL game. You're behind
the portal this offseason, yes.
You're behind those two institutions. By the time your players enter into the portal, unless you're going to go grab kids from Washington where you just came from, or in Mike's case, grab kids from here and Michigan when Harbaugh leaves, you don't really have many options. So your roster is going to be behind. Your NIL game is behind. How the hell are you supposed to win 10, 11 games if that's what's going on?
Yeah, now they've had a surplus for sure of elite players, and they're littered all over the field. Now, nobody's going to cry for Mr. DeBoer here early on. He ought to have, at the very least, 8-9 win season. But that's the very kind of season that lands you on the hot seat almost instantly. If you go 9-3 next year, they're like, look at this bum. We had a quarterback last year who couldn't throw, and we still won the division. We won the SEC because of the genius of Nick. But they're not wrong. It is because of the genius of Nick. It's ridiculous that they won the SEC with that kid.
Well, and if you watch that game, they should have won by multiple scores. And like I'm talking about 3 scores maybe, because Milroe missed a lot of things that were just right there. And how is it that Georgia team, is in a position to where you get slapped across the face, back and forth, and you can't do anything about it to an inferior Alabama? I mean, come on now. Let's be honest. They've been recruiting at a high level, but we know what Georgia is, what Alabama was last year. Come on now. How is it that you can lose to Milroe by multiple scores if he bothers to hit a couple open receivers? That's crazy.
It's a couple of things there, though, in fairness, and this is something that we said before the season began. In the modern era, in the poll era, not these made-up titles that people used to do all the time that Alabama's done and others have done, where they just like Jerry Jones and them like to tell people they won a national title at Arkansas. No, you didn't. Anyhow, but people do this all the time where they just make it up. They pick one of the titles and they say it's theirs and it's their national title. Nobody had ever won back-to-back-to-back. Nobody. There's a reason. It's just really effing hard to do. You can't have a bad day. And you're going to run into somebody who's really motivated because you've won back-to-back. And he's armed enough to get it done. And the weight is on you. The pressure is on you. It's not on them. You're favored to win the game. You've got the better team. If you start poorly, look what happened with Dallas and Green Bay. It's not a fair example, but the second that game got, and by the way, kudos to LaFleur for winning the coin toss and taking the ball. Do you know that Green Bay's done that 6 straight games? When they win the coin toss, they take the ball, and they've gone down and scored every time. Every time. So they knew that Dallas had the weight of the world on them. Dak had the weight of the world on his shoulders. That whole Cowboys team hadn't lost a game at home. Before they blink, it's 7-0. Then you have the interception, right? Which, oops, bad time to miss that badly. Now it's 14-0. Because you turn it over on your own, whatever that was, 25-yard line, right? So the next thing you know is 14-0. At 14-0, you're not playing Green Bay. You're playing the demons. You're playing the ghosts. You're playing the expectations. You're playing that thick feel in the crowd that we used to talk about at Hauser for regionals that comes with never having done it, right? That's the weight of the world. So I think that's how you could see Georgia get beaten in an SEC championship game with a superior team.
Well, and the other thing is, to bring it back to the original point, the ghosts are what DeBoer is going to have to coach against. The ghosts, but the ghost is alive, and he's in the stands, and he's sitting in a suite, and anytime something good or bad happens, if it's visible, if his body is visible in the stadium, the TV crew is going to pick it up.
Oh, buddy. That camera's coming over.
It's going right there. I mean, look, Spurrier's more than happy to grimace anytime something That little look in his face.
Oh, he gives that smug. Oh, it's got to be the worst feeling in the world. And now, if you're Napier, what are you going to say? What are you going to say to that dude's their hero?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's done everything short of Steve Spurrier has in the booth with a Florida polo on, going like this and just going,
undermining. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, Pat Dye did it. And Nick hated for Auburn that Pat Dye did it. That's why I don't understand the blind spot. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me.
I wonder, though, how often he'll be there. I mean, I don't think the office keeps you up at night. It's his presence. Like, is he there smoking a cigar, watching your practice? You're like, well, sweet Jesus, man, I can smell the cigar smoke.
Yeah.
He's just like, what you doing there? What's the purpose of this drill?
Well, and then the first time you struggle, you have your athletic director saying, look, I wanted to call a meeting and bring Nick in just to, maybe workshop some ideas. I mean, since we have this asset here, we have this asset who's the greatest to ever do it. I mean, why don't we use this guy and bring him in just to offer some thoughts?
And nobody likes that. You think about business. I've joked for years on the show that I want to be a consultant when I'm done being a talk show host. The best job in the world is being a consultant. You don't have to know or do anything. You just have to have the title of consultant. You get paid lots of money. They fly you around. You sit in on somebody else's work whom you know nothing about, anything about, and then you criticize it and say, this is what I would do, and then you leave. There you go. It's pretty easy. I want to be a consultant. Can't wait. Somebody make me a very high-paid consultant. They all are for some reason, and it's a great deal. But like, for example, the most resentment I ever had, they sent in a consultant when I was at Clear Channel, and was early on, but having some success. I think I was probably year 6, 7, whatever it was. And this guy comes to town. He's a nice enough guy. Whatever, we all go to dinner. He pretends to care, and he's going to listen in. And then he's listening to the show, and then you can't listen to anybody's show and get a sense of what it is one time. Now, you can listen to somebody whether or not they're a capable talk show host. Like, I can listen to a guy one time and be like, yeah, that dude's he can't do it. He doesn't know how to do it. But short of that, you can't know the personality of a show. You can't know the irreverence or whatever it might be, right? There are running themes in shows and references and things like that. So my man gets sent in from San Antonio, and he goes, well, all I'll say is, and like anybody else who listens to me would understand, was rightfully critical of the fact that I don't tease. I don't tease going to break in and out because I always hated it. Always hated it. And so, I'm stubborn. And he said that, and I said, great. And I thought, man, they paid that dude a ton of money to come in here and say that, which I already knew, and I'm not going to change. Now imagine. So I resented that. Now imagine it's Nick. And you sit down across, and you're like, we're so happy to have you here. And we thought year one, for the most part, went quite well. Now, there was that stumbling block on the road against Ole Miss. Tough loss. It can happen. It can happen. Hell, we've lost games just last year. I mean, under Nick, we've lost games. It happens. Speaking of, Nick, would you come on in? We want to have him sit down and let's compare some notes. We thought it would be a great time to come together and have this conversation.
Yeah. Coach, I'm sorry. I understand we've got the whole team here and you're going through team film. I understand that. Sorry, everybody, just forgive me here. Forgive me. But I thought personally, as the athletic director of Alabama, I thought it would be a great opportunity. Put your hands together. Put your hands together. Here we go. Nick Saban is going to give you a little lecture here on what it takes to win football games. So, Coach, I'm so sorry to cut into your time. But, Nick, go ahead. He's only got some thoughts, small thoughts, probably about 25, 30 minutes. All right, Coach, come on in here. Come on.
You have to sit there. Thank you, Coach Saban. Thank you, Coach Saban. I think we all agree we're very fortunate to have this resource right here, right? So anyhow, guys, as I was saying, it's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
News now.
Tallahassee police are installing more public safety cameras in the capital city. These new additions include the Tuskegee neighborhood and along West Pensacola Street on the south and west ends of the capital city. TPD said the cameras are installed based on resident requests. The police department works with the neighborhood association through regular meetings to approve the request based on crime analysis data. If the area's data shows the necessary criteria, officials also said that people are less likely to commit a crime if they know they are being watched. In terms of homeowner security, security cameras which would not be monitored. TPD said that would be part of a public-private partnership that has not been launched yet. The hope is to aid detectives in finding evidence after an incident has occurred near a residence. TPD also stated that the department is currently conducting research on gunshot detection systems to use in the near future. This is Rachel Anay with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update, brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at MacklemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A hard freeze watch begins at 1 a.m. Sunday morning. A wind chill advisory begins at 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. Slight chance of rain showers today. Otherwise, cloudy skies with a few peaks of sun. Daytime highs approaching 63. Winds out of the northwest, 8 to 15 miles per hour. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 56 degrees.
See Nice Tire and Auto Service at 4792 Bluntstown Highway today. The ASE trained technicians at Nice take the guesswork out of fixing your car. That's why wherever you see the Goodyear sign, you'll find what you want in tires and service. From preventative maintenance to a major overhaul and everything in between, you name it. Plus, Nice's services are backed by a nationwide limited warranty. Stop by Nice Tire and Auto Service. 4792 Bluntstown Highway, just west of Capitol Circle.
So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpers, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chungla, as I call it.
The bungalow chung, Jeff?
Is that what is the pork?
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chungla. It's delicious. All these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is the skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of that nobody would know and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com multimedia network. Check out Warchant.com.
We talked about it, Tom and I did yesterday, but hang in there. Nothing too big has happened. We already referenced sort of the aggressive nature of what the ACC has done and what we think that means, but we'll have a legal opinion on that sometime in the near future. So hang in there on that. I know I had mentioned it previously. I get excited every time that there is new news because it seems like to me, Tom, since all this has gone down, that most of it has kind of revealed some things, maybe not things that will change the nature of the suit or how this ends up and how quickly it ends up, but rather just kind of opens your eyes to stuff you didn't know. Like, oh, I had no idea that this was in place or that was in place or this had to be renewed or that. Like, we've already found out stuff just by going down this road.
Yeah, I think by definition, Florida State's not on the hook for over $500 million when the ACC can't guarantee you that its network is going to exist in more than a few years from now. Like, so since you can't guarantee me through 2036, 9 years of that's already knocked off, at least to me. This is now judges see things differently. They weigh penalties differently. And who knows if it goes into a court of law, how things are going to work out. But if you're telling me that the network isn't guaranteed through 36, how am I on the hook for my rights through the year?
All the way through 36. That's what I was thinking too.
Right. And then the other thing is when the ACC preemptively files a suit 5 minutes before, I believe your previous guest to this end said it was 4:55 or
4:55. 4:55 on a Friday. Yeah.
Right. So last order of business on a Friday, so nobody knows about it. The day before Florida State goes ahead and operates the way it does, that tells me that they have a level of concern. If they weren't concerned, they would say, go ahead, Florida State, do what you want to do. Name the venue, no problem. But they are concerned. So those two things lead me to believe that the number is not going to be the maximum that Florida State presented, and it's already down to something that's probably palatable. But let's see how much more we can knock this thing down, because the more you knock down the price to get out, the sooner you are operating dollar for dollar with Power 2 competition. And don't let this athletic department operate dollar for dollar with the competition. We've never had that chance. We've never had that luxury. Bring it on. If we get that chance, buddy, man, this thing is going all the way to the moon in terms of the entire athletic department.
One can dream, and let's hope it all happens oh so quickly. I know many people received their emails this past week regarding which package you're going to purchase, if in fact you are going to do it that way through Aer Lingus and make your way over to Ireland for that first game. That game is already on my mind, partly because we're going to be there and it's fun and I love Ireland, but also just because of what I think this season can be. And then also the thought that this is maybe the last year ever in the ACC. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Just
that would be,
just a
talk about a Guinness salute. I mean, every day is Libations Day over there. You've got Libations Monday. Next day is Libations Tuesday, followed by Libations Wednesday. And if you haven't had enough libations, enjoy this Libations Thursday. That would be something to celebrate over. And I know for a fact also we've got special tailgate opportunities that we're going to be sharing in the weeks to come. Some of them have a ticket package assigned with them too. So if you haven't purchased an entire vacation, but you want a ticket to the game and then a really cool game day experience to go along with it, we're going to be sharing those opportunities, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And our role in that, I mean, it's a far way off for a lot of people now, but it's, when the football season ended, you suddenly then turned your attention to next season and began to think about, all right, well, how do we lay this out? It's just that the schedule around college football is resembling pro football more and more. I mean, we're thinking about what the team's going to look like, what the record's going to be, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're in spring football. And once you're in spring football, you are really thinking about how close you are to August. And I just know that if you take us back 10 to 13 days, there was just not a good sense that things were going well for Florida State. And now here we sit on a Friday, January 19th. This month, by the way, the opposite of December, Tom. It is flying past. Remember, you were like angry how long you thought December lasted?
Oh, well, I think it's the longest month in Florida State football program history. I mean, it sucked. You had one good Saturday night that led into a Sunday morning, and, buddy, I was up to the wee hours getting ready and just basking in the glow, getting ready for that reaction show. And then from that point on, from whatever time that was, 11:15 in the morning until New Year's, dear God, it lasted 700 days. 700 days it lasted.
It seemed to take forever. I'm not going to lie. I was with you on that. I just was laughing because you are seldom shook by these things, but you're like, good God, December will never end. I can see it on your face. You were under a lot of stress. There was a lot going on with you.
Well, bad month to pick a move, right? I mean,
it was never going to end.
Moving 18 and a half hours away was probably not. I didn't know that, though. It should have been bowl practices, candy, rainbows, and sunshine. I'm sorry, playoff practices, invitational practices. Instead, it was Armageddon to the roster, who's going, opt out. I mean, you know it. Signing day didn't go perfectly. It was a little rough.
But now it's almost February, buddy. In February, once you're in February, it's nearly March. Here you go. And pitchers and catchers soon enough, buddy. And here we roll. We got FSU baseball this year coming up.
We also, within a couple of weeks, if history is our guide, we will have the football schedule laid out in terms of dates, weekends, and opponents, bye weeks, all those kinds of things, which means the W's and L's are only a couple of weeks away.
W's and L's only a couple of weeks away. And let me put a ribbon on the point I was going to make. We got sidetracked by talking about the endless December, a long December, the Counting Crows say. So here you go. What I would say to you is that just 10 to 13 days ago, a whole lot of hopelessness, a lot of feeling of limbo, frustration. I don't know that anybody's not already really excited. Like people, if you go and look at the boards or you look at my inbox, you look at all this stuff, like I now see maybe too much enthusiasm, if there's such a thing. It's good for us, but it's fascinating to watch how quickly it changes. And this is the world we're in now. This is the world of college football. I don't get too high with the highs and too low with the lows, at least in terms of personnel and what I think a team's going to be. Because I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling, and I hinted at this before, and maybe I got too specific. People thought maybe I was inferring something. You read between the lines. I usually do a pretty good job of this. I don't think Florida State's done. Let's see what happens. It just stands to reason that there'd be a couple positions you'd still target, and probably a few more opportunities that will present themselves. Spring these days is a very interesting time because, in essence, you come out of spring and you watch it all happen again. You watch all the disgruntled and frustrated people who didn't win the jobs or weren't on the depth chart the way they thought they were going to be, and they run out of the portal. And you're going to lose some guys. Florida State's going to lose several players, but they have a chance to gain several players as well. And if you look at that exchange currently, what Florida State's lost, at least in the sense of those that have chosen to leave, and what Florida State's gained, well, they've elevated the floor of talent immensely. You're replacing guys, again, I don't want to take cheap shots, but you're replacing guys that ended up at Rutgers, that ended up at Southern Miss and places like that, with guys that played at LSU and Alabama and Georgia. And, all right. I'll take that exchange. And I think that will continue.
And Alabama.
And Alabama again, Tom, and more Alabama. Maybe, just maybe, there's another Alabama to be had. If you could somehow convince that offensive tackle, that kid who was a stud as a freshman, to make his way here, it'd be good times. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with it.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs.
This is a required monthly test of the emergency alert system. Had this been an actual emergency or dangerous situation, official messages and directions would have followed the alert tones. This test is brought to you by the Florida Division of Emergency Management, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and your local broadcast station or cable provider. This concludes the required monthly test.
Glad you did.
I'm Greg Tisch, and I'm here to tell you about TCC's first semester. In the fall of 1966, about 300 students were expected to enroll at the brand new Tallahassee Junior College. A total of 698 enrolled, exceeding everyone's expectations. The campus was not finished, though, so classes took place in Rickards High School and then Godby High School. Today, TCC has 7 campuses and enrolls around 15,000 students annually.
TCC thanks our community for 58 years of support. We look forward to moving into the future together.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because no two people sleep the same. Only the Sleep Number smart bed lets you each choose your individual firmness and comfort, your Sleep Number setting. The Climate 360 smart bed is so smart, it actively cools or warms up to 13 degrees on either side for your ideal sleep temperature. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed for a limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
My dad has a cold, but also has high blood pressure. That's why I got him Vicks DayQuil High Blood Pressure for max strength daytime relief. Unlike some ordinary cold medicines, it's specially formulated for people like my dad. DayQuil High Blood Pressure is sugar-free, alcohol-free, and decongestant-free.
Vicks DayQuil High Blood Pressure. The daytime, non-drowsy, coughing, aching, fever, sore throat, cold, and flu for people with high blood pressure.
Like my dad.
Medicine. Use as directed.
There's fun to be had every night at the Corner Pocket. Take home prizes on Trivia Tuesdays and Beer Bingo Thursdays. And kickstart your weekend with Martini Fridays. Plus, happy hour runs every weekday and game day specials every time the Noles take the field. Watch all the best games at the Corner Pocket's Vegas Wall, featuring 560 inches of flat screen TV heaven.
Oh, really?
The best food, the best drinks, and the best place to watch all the games. Tallahassee loves the Corner Pocket.
Coming up next, more of the Jeff Cameron Show. Live and local on Real Talk 93.3 WVFT, Greta, Tallahassee.
The latest betting odds and line movements from Vegas. This is your action update. Now here are your latest lines from our guys in the desert.
Orlando Magic a 5-point underdog against the Philadelphia 76ers at the Kia Center today, where the total is 223. The 76ers have won 17 straight games as a road favorite. Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday, plus 6.5 at Detroit. In the divisional round of the playoffs at Ford Field, where the total is 49.5. Will any team score 30 or more points? A prop bet on the board. Yes, minus 135 the favorite. No, plus 105. Detroit has won the first half in 15 of its last 16 games as a favorite. They're minus 205 first half money line. Football fans, score big without the burn. Play for free for a chance to win your share of $10,000 at TumsPropBites.com. Mike Son at Real Talk 93.3.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Skincare is self-care, and with daily beauty steals of 50% off during Ulta Beauty's Love Your Skin event, I can find everything I need to make loving my skin a daily practice, from brands like Osea, Lancome, and Tula. And I can shop weekly skin and wellness deals of 30% off more must-have brands. Plus, see what's new from brands like Bubble and in select stores, Sol de Janeiro and Ulla Henriksen. Hurry, event ends January 20th. Shop in store, online, or try pick up today. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful. Conditions apply.
From the front lines of the fight against socialism, it's America in View.
Go, Java, Brew, Go-Go Beans, Brainwater, Liquid Lightning, Wakey Juice, whatever you call your cup of coffee, you're missing out if it's not Grassroots Coffee. At grassrootscoffee.com, you'll find an easy way to order the best roasted coffee beans available. It's very simple. Choose the blend you want and how you want it ground, and the bag you receive will have the date your beans were roasted and packaged on it, all written by hand and signed by the roast master himself. You'll know that's as fresh as it gets. You can get Grassroots outside of your house also at some of your favorite restaurants in town. Next time you're out to eat, try asking for Grassroots Coffee by name, because there's a good chance they will have it for you. And if you own a business, Grassroots Coffee has options to stock your break rooms with all the productivity powder your team needs. Plus, like some other options that you'll find at work, Grassroots Coffee actually is a part of our community. Get to grassrootscoffee.com today and get yourself a treat. Some locally owned, locally roasted, and locally loved Grassroots Coffee.
We all want more energy, more strength, more results. Well, welcome to Orange Theory Fitness as you take a step towards feeling more alive today. Backed by science, Orange Theory's heart rate monitored workout is scientifically designed to keep heart rates in a target zone, spiking metabolism and increasing energy. Orange Theory Fitness is a one-of-a-kind group personal training workout resulting in more energy, visible toning, and extra calorie burn for up to 36 hours. Experience more vibrant life today with Orange Theory Fitness. To find out more, go to orangetheoryfitness.com.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3,
at the schedule. Let's see, numbers. Yes. All right. I knew I saw an interesting stat during the break, and I was going to forget it. So I'm going to bet I don't know if you're going to do this. Would you take every favorite this week if you just bet on the money line?
On the money line, and I have to pick all of one or all of the other?
I think you'd take all favorites, right?
Yeah, I would. I could see it going chalk this weekend, but it's the NFL. I don't like these above one touchdown lines, even in a situation like both Saturday games. I think they're 9.5 both games. I'm not so sure that Houston specifically can't keep it within a touchdown against Baltimore. I'm not so certain that Green Bay can't. I think if you're going to have to bet one and lay the number, you lay the 9.5 with San Francisco, not with Baltimore.
It's interesting. The 48 points the Packers put up last week. Well, 7 of the last 9 teams that scored 31 points or more in their wild card wins covered in the divisional round. They were teams that were on fire and playing well at the right time and whose offenses were red hot. And they got into, the playoffs barely, and then they won a wild card game and scored a lot of points. And if you fit that, if that is your resume, there are other wild card teams who didn't do that and didn't go on. But if you scored more than 31 points in your wild card round win, and the next week played in the divisional round, and a lot of these are all on the road. They pulled off road wins in the wild card round. Of the last 35 teams, I pulled this up earlier today, that pulled off road wins in the wild card round to advance. 20 of them have covered the point spread. That's 58%, and 12 have won a second straight road game outright. That's a pretty high percentage. And that's a pretty high percentage of teams. There's something to be said for teams that just keep playing. I mean, I know that we always talk about rest, but I'm not so sure, Tom. I think sometimes, especially if you're riding a hot hand, and nobody's been riding a hotter hand than Jordan Love, right? He has to feel really good about the way he's playing. And he doesn't face any real pressure here. I mean, you want to win, but nobody's looking at like the opposite's true of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has been awesome this year. That team, the plus minus ratio of wins over playoff teams, other playoff teams, the Ravens have the largest lopsided number in their favor in the history of the NFL for wins over playoff teams this year. Did you know that?
I did not know that. But what I do know is that when you're looking at this particular set, and I think Saturday with the two big favorites, you're looking at two teams that can run the ball, can control the line of scrimmage and win that way. I think sometimes when you see upsets in divisional weekend, it's because a team that has a bye, and there used to be 2 of them that had a bye, they might be all glitz, glamour, 350, 400 yards a game, but then there's inclement weather in their home stadium that doesn't exist as much in November or even somewhat in December. Or maybe they haven't played a team that can control the line of scrimmage and run the ball as well. And so therefore you shrink the possessions and it becomes kind of a game of chance or turnovers or fumble luck. The thing that about these two favorites, and if I was going to argue the opposite of why they should be favored by more than 6.5 or 7 points, is because they can run the ball. They can bludgeon you. These aren't the Rams of 1999. This isn't, the sheriff throwing for 5,000 yards. This is, these teams can really ground and pound with the best of them. So I think that might be why some of those upsets happen over the years in the divisional round.
More statistics regarding the divisional round, which we love and embrace and have celebrated since we came on the air today. The outright winner in divisional round playoff games are 34-11-1 against the spread in the last 46 divisional playoff games. So that's kind of interesting. And that this is well below the 23-24 regular season standard of just short of 80%. So that's interesting. 34-11-1, 75.6% of the time. So if you like the favorites, you like them to cover the spread. And those are some big numbers, Tom.
They are.
I tend to think, by the way, the game that has a chance to be fascinating, to be weird, if they can hang in the first quarter, is the Houston game.
Yeah, this is a quarterback who's doing otherworldly things. He threw for 3 touchdowns and 240 yards or something along those lines in the first half. They didn't need him in the second half last week at all. Like, he was on pace to go for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns and shatter
He was awesome.
every rookie record. But when you have back-to-back pick sixes by poor Flacco, he had one moment in the sun and it's all gone now. But when you have back-to-back pick sixes, you don't need him at any point. But that first half was a singular performance. And in fact, as good as it was, he missed a wide-open receiver that nobody was in 30 yards of in a drive where they didn't score any points. So Houston could have put up an astronomical figure. And if you think about it that way, you need to be at least a little bit concerned if you're a Baltimore fan.
It's interesting. I try to, if they could find a way to discern this in the interview process, and clearly they can't, then, we would see far fewer busts of first-round quarterbacks. What is it about C.J. Stroud? Okay, so there are quarterbacks in the last 10 years that have been drafted that are as physically, if not more physically gifted than him. There are guys whose college careers that you watch play out looked more certain of future success than his. I mean, remember we debated what he was? He had that game against Clemson where we were like, holy moly, that translates. Like, if he's going to play like that when he goes to the league, he's going to be incredible. But we saw a lot of games where he didn't play anything close to that. And they were loaded at receiver. And then you think back for somebody like Dak Prescott. Okay, so Dak Prescott falls to the 4th round, understandably, because he played at Mississippi State. But if you looked at Dak Prescott coming out, you'd say, well, what are the strikes against Dak Prescott? All right, well, he played in a Mickey Mouse offense because that was Dan Mullen's offense, right? So you played in a nonsense. Back then, we would say it more than we do now. Now a lot of college offenses do translate, and they incorporate a lot of elements of college offenses in NFL offenses now, more than they did when Dak came out of Mississippi State.
Right, which is why when our draft expert at the time, Charlie Campbell, came on, he said, look, in NFL circles, Dak is turning heads at the whiteboard.
Yes.
He runs a simple offense, but they're asking him advanced questions, and he's got the answers.
Okay, so that answers my question, Tom. Think about it. So, again, getting back to what it is that they can't figure out in these interviews with all of these kids. Okay, so Dak comes from that offense. He got Mississippi State to an Orange Bowl, which is a miracle. I mean, that's a miracle, right? So he had a stellar college career. At one point, they were ranked number 2 in the country, as we recall. And we think, maybe a hindrance when he goes through the interview process because he's never had to run a real offense. But then, like you said, behind closed doors, all the pros were like, whoa, kid seems to get it. He understands what it is we do up here. Okay, got it. All right. Well, physically, nobody ever questioned him. He's got a big arm. He's physically a big guy, a big, strong guy. He has an NFL arm. He has all of those things. And then remember, you and I on the air, probably year 2, I think we were like, look at my man processing like we were stunned. It was all happening. And it was reason to kind of you just gave kudos. You're like, well, this is a good team, and he's making plays. He's got good players around him, and he's making plays. All right. But then, obviously, the one thing has been the shrinking in these big moments, these horrible games when you have to have it, this just sense that it's never going to happen for him. Who knows? And yet C.J. Stroud, year 1, has put up these massive numbers for a franchise that, 3 wins, 4 wins, 3 wins. I mean, they've been garbage. That guy has a rookie head coach. He's a rookie at quarterback, and they threw up numbers and just pasted that ass in the first round, and you get no sense whatsoever that he's nervous. They may lose because Baltimore's better, but I don't think it's going to be him like, this is too much. You don't get that sense. They can never figure this out in interviews. They never get it.
Well,
I should say never. They fall into it sometimes, but I don't think that they have the magic formula for figuring out who has that and who doesn't.
Correct. And I'll tell you, just as an example, I'm not going to talk about fantasy football, but I'm in a league where there's a redraft, and we had 4 teams last week, and nobody wanted any part of Stroud. There's 4 teams, there's 8 quarterbacks, and nobody took C.J. Stroud because the Cleveland defensive front, that was the storyline. Cleveland, I know that they're a little bit different on the road than they are at home in terms of defensive performances, but that front with Myles Garrett leading the way is fearsome, and your thought is rookie quarterback, excellent edge rusher. That doesn't go well. That usually doesn't go well at all. And yet Laramie Tunsil dominated that game. Our favorite, Laramie Tunsil from draft night. That guy is amazing. My man with the gas mask. Well, he put a gas mask and put, Myles Garrett to sleep last week. He didn't allow a pressure to Myles Garrett. Not a hit on the quarterback, not nothing. So that's the other part is if you're gifted, sometimes we never find out how gifted you are, how gifted you could be because the situation you walk into is completely sorry. But when you have a left tackle like Laramie Tunsil, that's a good start. And then when you've got the fearlessness that he's got in Stroud himself, that also is awesome. And he flipped a switch towards the end of his college career. And that's why last year, not this past season where we weren't invited to the Invitational, Ohio State, Georgia was the national championship game. The one that ended at the stroke of midnight was actually the national championship.
It was an incredible game. Incredible game.
It was.
All-time fun game to watch. And yeah, you're right. That and the way that he played in that game, they should have won.
Yeah, they should have won. And and that defense that he took on was not this year's Georgia defense. And it wasn't this year's this was a flawed field. That was a really, really good field at the top. And he went toe-to-toe. And he hasn't really looked back from that point. Think about it, man. In the end, Tampa is not that bad of a football team. We're not great, but we're not bad. And what he did to the Bucs under a minute to go, I mean, that's one of the chapters in his story this year is they've got little to no time, and all he needed was about 20 seconds. He needed about 20 seconds to make two throws that are absolutely absurd and win a game.
The stories in this round are awesome. Like, you can go in every game and find a really cool story. I mean, listen, you brought up the Bucs, and we'll get back to this. I have a feeling that game's going to be very high scoring. The Lions love to give up points. Their defense isn't good. And if obviously you worry off the edge, but if you're able to block it up at all, Mayfield should find people downfield. I mean, their secondary is the one weak spot of this Detroit team. They give up big plays. And so, I don't think the Bucs are going to get stops. I think the Bucs are going to struggle to get stops in this game. In particular, I don't think they'll stop Detroit from running. But the point would be, I'm going to go over in that game. When that line came out, it was 6. It's moved to 6.5. If I can get it to 7 or 7.5, give me the Bucs. That feels like almost like a backdoor cover. Like you're down 30-20 with 7 to play, and they keep it in front of them, and you score late. You get a cheap cover.
It's an interesting game. Like, if I'm going to argue the Bucs side of things, the way they came out against Philly. And Philly didn't care to be there, I'll grant you. But it's not about that as much as it is on first down, what was happening.
They finally threw the ball.
Right. They understood that they needed to throw. This was a pass defense that was gettable, and so they went out and they got it. Now, they ran off the throw, and that's where Rashad White was, in the first quarter specifically, was very effective, coming out, running the football, getting downhill, making plays, but it was off of the throw. They threw the ball in order to be able to run. That's a great setup for this week. Because if you look at the game that they played earlier this season, it was the creamsicle game for the Buccaneers. They ran it on first down and ran it. And they only scored 6 points in that game against a bad Lions defense. So
20-6 was a crazy, weird game, yeah.
It was. Goff threw for 300 yards, and they only scored 20 points. Because
I don't think it's in any way indicative, right, of what we're going to see here. I think they're two very different teams.
I agree. I totally agree. That defense got worse. Their linebacker, Anzalone, was the player of the game for Detroit that day. He was freaking everywhere, but you know what? He's not a safety. He's not a corner, and I think the Buccaneers have figured that out.
Well, remember, that was the start of a terrible stretch for Tampa. That loss, 20-6, was followed by a loss to sorry-ass Atlanta, a loss to Buffalo, a loss to the Texans, and the Texans needed a miracle, 39-37. You got a win over the lowly Titans, but then you got beat up pretty good by the 49ers, of course. No shame there. But then you lost to the Colts. So, as we recall, you lost 6 of 7. We didn't expect the Bucs to be in the playoffs after losing 6 of 7. But then they turn around and beat Carolina 21-18. They beat Atlanta. They beat Green Bay. And that's the other weird thing. They beat Green Bay at Green Bay, and they beat Green Bay's ass. And you think about what Green Bay is now, and you would never have thought that was going to happen, but that was December 17th. That's not all that long ago. They beat up on Jacksonville, who was doing their best Eagles impression and falling off a cliff at that point. They didn't care to wrap up the division at home against New Orleans, didn't even show up, and then obviously couldn't score a touchdown against the Carolina Panthers. And meanwhile, they go on to do what they did in this game, which is light up Philadelphia. But you're right, they didn't care to be there. So the initial thought was, I'm going to take Detroit. I think they'll kill the Bucs. But then I can't say that because Detroit's defense, especially in the secondary, isn't great.
Oh, it's possible that Detroit wins the game. And I see Hawaii Noel in the chat saying Lions get to 30 and it's a wrap. Well, if anybody gets to 30 this weekend, it's pretty much a wrap, man. Like, yeah,
should be
playoff football. I mean, for the most part, most games, especially at this level, I mean, you look at the totals this weekend. Vegas thinks everything's going to be in the mid 40s to upper 40s. They're not seeing a score fest. Anybody gets that high, then they're going to be tough to catch. The Lions should win the game, but also, oddly enough, it's going $1,100 a ticket, man. Who's the pressure on? Who is the pressure on Saturday?
That was what I was talking about when we looked at this round in these games. Like, who's under the most amount of pressure? Wouldn't Buffalo be under more pressure than Kansas City hosting this game?
Yes.
They finally get this game at home. Finally, they've been waiting on this. That's not a dynamic Kansas City offense. The pressure's on Josh Allen in Buffalo. You can clearly define the pressure's on Detroit. They're at home. They've waited for this moment. The Bucs in Baker Mayfield were thought to win 5 games. This is not a great Buccaneers team. There's a reason Detroit's favored by nearly a touchdown. The pressure's on Detroit. Tampa has nothing to lose. They're playing with house money at this point, having won the division and a playoff game. The pressure is on San Francisco. They're clearly the better team. And for as good as Shanahan is, and I think he's the best coach in football, he does have to win a Super Bowl at some point. I mean, he's on the wrong end of that collapse as the coordinator in Atlanta, 28-3. And then, of course, they haven't won it in San Francisco. And he's got great players and a great team. The pressure's on San Francisco. Doesn't mean they're going to lose. But the pressure, doesn't mean they're going to lose, but the pressure's on them. And the pressure's on Baltimore. A ton of pressure. Lamar Jackson's only knock. He's won 2 MVPs, but they can't win playoff games.
Well, and it's the same thing. I'll say it for our game. Doesn't mean that Detroit's going to lose. They should win the game. And if they do, I will not be surprised if they win the football game.
I wouldn't be surprised if they won big.
Right, exactly. But all these games, if you don't do what you're supposed to do early on, man, when you've got a bad defense, you are vulnerable. I think that's the difference between Sunday and that game and the 2 games on Saturday, is if Baltimore starts slow and if San Francisco starts slow on offense, their defenses can hold down the fort. Detroit is under a little bit more pressure. Every empty possession, and you feel like, guys, get it together.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I let that Baltimore game be tied at half. Let that be 10-10, 7-7, some sort of way. Oh, man. I love when you feel the weight of it, even on your couch at home. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Sensation salad is so much more than a plain old salad. It's a salad, which begs the question, at what point does a salad stop being a salad and become a salad? Is it when you add Zaxby's fried chicken to it? Crunchy wontons? Asian slaw? Citrus vinaigrette? Teriyaki glaze? Sweet and spicy sauce? Or is it when you top it all with a handmade perfectly fried egg roll? Without a doubt, the egg roll. The Sensation Salad, only at Zaxby's.
Hey, no fans, our partner ISF Inc. is a national management and IT consulting firm located right here in Tallahassee, Florida, solving the future for state governments through strategy, process, and technology. As a trusted advisor for state governments, ISF knows the importance of defining a clear and detailed strategy. Our friends at ISF can help your organization create a strategy that sets you on a path to success. ISF, your vision plus our expertise brings your brilliant ideas to life. Visit ISF.com to learn more. ISF, solving the future. Power Mill Training Academy equips motivated athletes focused on baseball and softball with the specific tools to reach their true potential. Now, you'll read that if you go to their website, but I'm here to tell you that, look, whether it's your daughter wanting to play softball, your son wants to play baseball, or maybe they just want to have fun and get the most out of their abilities, and that's where Power Mill comes into play. They've got coaches and camps that teach for every level of play for your son or your daughter. To learn more, go to PowerMillSports.com.
There's nothing like relaxing in a hot tub after a long day. But if you don't have one, you're truly missing out. Hot tubs and spas have tremendous health benefits, besides just helping you relax. Like improving your sleep, they help with pain relief. They help to better your cardiovascular health, and so much more. And this season is the perfect season to finally buy what you've been wishing for. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patio, and Spas has the hot tubs you need for the price you want. Come shop our huge 12,000 square foot showroom and save today. There's over 50 hot tubs in stock right now, so you won't have to wait weeks on end for that delivery to finally come to town. If you're ready to relax, we're here to show you how. Pinch a Penny Pool, Patios, and Spas. Come visit our used showroom at 2473 Greer Road with over 50 hot tubs to choose from. You'll be glad you did.
Oh my God, what happened to you? You're walking so crooked.
Well, I was walking my alligator and I tripped on a cypress knee and I spilled my margarita.
Oh my gosh, your margarita.
Yeah, I'm blowing my back completely out. I had to ride the alligator home. I don't know what to do. My back's killing me.
You're such a Florida man. You should know you should go to Finn Chiropractic.
Really?
You can go to their website and book an appointment and get you in as soon as possible. Go to finnchiro.com, FENNCHIRO.com.
You mean 24 hours a day I can make my appointment online and pay for it?
Yep, right on their website.
Wow, and it's discounted?
Yeah.
All right, that's what Florida man needs to do.
No lines, no waiting. Visit FenChiro.com to book your next appointment with a discount. FENNCHIRO.com. That's FENNCHIRO.com. It's Fen Chiropractic, where the chiropractors love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Hold my beer. I'm going to Finn Chiropractic.
So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpers, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chunglo, as I call it.
The bungalow chung, Jeff?
Is that what is the pork?
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chunglo. It's delicious. All these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of that nobody would know and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the
song on a Friday. We'll wager with my mom momentarily. She's got this thing wrapped up. This is going to be a session for her to go. It'll be the following segment. So this is a short segment. Do we going to do Red Zone here? Tom, did you come prepared for Red Zone?
I did. I have 4 questions for you. Yes, I do.
Hey, before we get to them, this is funny, really quick. I'm going to make him write it out. Did you have an allowance growing up?
Yes. Once I got to 3rd or 4th grade. Yes, I did.
My youngest wants money all the time now because, he wants the right fit, as the kids say. And, I just ignore him whenever he says, whenever Clark says these sorts of things. Well, I want this hoodie and I want this jacket and I want these pants. And I'm like, whatever, you're well dressed. You're good. He's like, well, Dad, I'm 13. I don't have a way to make money. And can you have me do things around here? I'm like, oh, you want me to pay you to do things that you should just do just to help out? And he's like, well, yeah, I'm not allowed to have a job. Can you give me something to do so I can make some money? So I've been thinking about doing it, but then I get mad because I'm like, well, keep your room clean, but you should do that anyway. I shouldn't have to pay you to keep your room clean. All these different things, right? Now you were the king of a dirty room and you resented parents that were asking you to clean your room.
Yes, that's true. You remember that.
I do remember that.
Because I knew where everything was.
Right. Well, he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, that's fair. Now, the allowance would be for other stuff that I would normally not be responsible for. And it was like a line item, like per task that it was worth this much money. And I think the cap was up to $10 a week, I think is what it was.
Well, but there will be a cap on this. It will be very similar to something along those lines. By the way, Florida Man in Texas says, Jeff, just recount the votes and announce that your picks were better than your mother's. Better quality. I think you're right. So this is a letter.
Rigged.
Yeah. So this made me laugh. I told him last night that I wanted him to write me a letter, that his plea needed to be in written form, and just to make it, to see how disciplined he would be. And so what are the chances this? I came across this today. This is from a 13-year-old John F. Kennedy, future president of the United States, asking for a raise for his allowance. And he wrote to his dad, "My recent allowance is 40 cents. This I used for airplanes and other playthings of a childhood, but now I am a Boy Scout and I put away my childish things. Before I would spend 20 cents of my 40 cents allowance, and in 5 minutes, I would have empty pockets and nothing to gain and 20 cents to lose. When I'm a scout, I have to buy canteens, blankets, searchlights, ponchos that will last for years, and I can always use it. I can't use a chocolate marshmallow sundae with vanilla ice cream, so I put in my plea now for a raise of 30 cents for me to buy scout things and pay my way in the world. John F. Kennedy." What are the chances Clark's letter does not live up to Kennedy's letter at the exact same age for an allowance?
Pretty good. But you know what? Maybe that's what the allowance is for. You can force him to do reports, like book reports, and further educate himself. So he can get paid to further educate himself outside of school. Maybe that's the chore. Is you want to learn something about son, I want to know more about the War of 1812. I need a 4-page paper on it, and it's worth $5.
You're right. It's going to have to be the incentive. I got to bring these things, these parroting quandaries to the show is what I'm doing. So I'm going to have Clark. Yeah, Clark can use AI to write the damn letter, right?
Oh, pencil and paper. Pencil and paper.
You got to write it out. Yeah. No. By the way, Ryan, that's funny. Yeah. Discipline equals freedom. I would go the Jocko Links thing. Discipline equals freedom, son. Let's do all of the right things in the classroom and in your own room. And perhaps when you open that door, there is $1. $1. That's what you're going to get. All right. So let's ready ourselves. I myself was not ready. I wanted to get that out there to you, but, our friends at Artisan Financial Services are always ready. So let's do Red Zone with them. Cue it up. Let's hit the sounder. Let's listen in. And one of the great sounders of all time, as made by Tom Lane.
Welcome to the majesty.
Every freaking rep.
The elegance.
To win the game. Oh, he hits the upright. It's no good.
You have entered.
Someone burned down the funeral home. You burnt the funeral home.
Lives will be changed.
Sideline. Touchdown. Unbelievable.
Mothers will cry.
When you see your players give all that they have and you lose that way, it's tough.
Legacies are etched into eternity.
I know who I am.
North, South Dakota was his brother from West Virginia.
This is the Red Zone.
That's good to know.
As I mentioned, as brought to you by Artisan Financial Strategies. And we know, my fellow Noles, that our fellow Nole, Adam Tolliver's the guy you want to reach out to. His team at Artisan Financial Strategy, prepared to coach you to victory in the red zone in your real life experience, whether you're on the goal line or midfield. We've got to figure out what it is you need to do financially to have enough. You got to make sure how much you're going to spend or not spend so that you don't run out of money. You got to protect your family and yourself against rising healthcare costs. Go to KnollRetirement.com. They've got a ton of experience, over 30 years worth, he and his team at Artisan. KnollRetirement.com, all one word there. Type it out. Go find out what others have figured out. We had 2 people in the last 2 weeks reach out to me and say thank you for this, and I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, let me know if you guys do it. KnollRetirement.com. Let's learn together. Let's find out more. Let's tap into Adam's brilliance. Tom, first down. Go.
First down, percentage chance FSU Hoops wins tomorrow against Clemson.
74%.
Ooh, okay.
Riding high.
I was going to play it off of the betting line, but it has not been released up here for DraftKings, so I don't have it yet. So I just wanted to straight up win. I guess you're going to take the points because you should be getting some points.
I am getting points, but I like them to straight up win. Yeah, okay. I like them to straight up win.
A little money line for that ass?
Yeah.
Second down.
I money line for that ass against Miami the other night, laying in bed sick. And I turned and saw, the final score, and I was watching. And I didn't fall asleep, as I said before, but I looked at my phone. I said, oh, the winnings are already in. I slept soundly.
Second down. Which non-transfer this offseason will we be talking about the most in spring camp?
Hakeem Williams.
Okay. I would have guessed Azareye'h Thomas was going to be your answer, but you go
great answer, and that is my answer on defense.
Okay. All right. Is there a reason? Is he just going to ball, or is it because what's up with Hakeem?
He was so quick, man. He was so close. I don't think people realize how close we were to seeing this offense become much more explosive. If he and Destin Hill hadn't gotten hurt, we're used to talking about the starters being hurt, and they did have almost all of their guys go down at some point or another, and their offensive line wasn't good. But those two guys, I think, were the long-term solutions for when this offense got stagnant. I think those two guys were going to be big-time playmakers, and both got hurt, and they missed a ton of time. And even when they did come back, they weren't right. And they missed the growth that they would have had just by playing in those games, a healthy version of themselves, getting real reps and opportunities. Remember, that was a big third down throw and catch that Hakeem Williams made it was the pick game, right? And that was a big play. Yeah. And then, he's hurt, and then the next thing you know, you just don't have any. You just didn't get anything from them. But I think they were both very close, and he especially is a unique talent.
Third down, team that is most likely to get blown out this weekend in the NFL.
Tampa Bay.
I was wondering if you would do it. I think that's the correct answer, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than Green Bay.
Even more than Green Bay. I think Green Bay is going to score. I think San Francisco wins the game. And I don't like, in a regular season game, I don't like giving nearly double-digit points in an NFL game. So I would lean to take the 9.5 with Green Bay. But San Francisco's the better football team, and I think San Francisco is going to the Super Bowl. And I said in the middle of the season I thought San Francisco would win the Super Bowl. And even when they lost to Baltimore in San Francisco, I still think San Francisco is going to win the Super Bowl. But I could see I could see the Bucs getting blown out. I don't think the Bucs are a good football team. They're an amazing story. Baker Mayfield's played way better than I thought he could play, and I'm proud of him. He won me over. I mean, the dude is tough as nails. He's become a kind of likable guy. When you read the stuff that the players say about him, how hard he plays, how much he cares, how focused, how much more mature he is now than when he first came into the league. I think he figured it out. He got humbled, obviously. And he bet on himself. This was it. He took a paltry sum, if you will, to come in here and try to prove who he was. And he did it. He's going to get paid somewhere. I don't know if we're going to pay him, and I don't think I'd want to pay him, even though I'm impressed by him. I don't want Baker Mayfield to be the long-term answer in Tampa Bay, but I'll always appreciate what he did. Now go get paid and be somebody else's starter. Let them invest on you, because I think long-term you're just slightly above average. You've had a good year. I admire it, but I don't think the Bucs are great, and I think that this thing could snowball on them. Detroit is so excited, and Detroit, if you're a Detroit fan and you're listening to this, enjoy this win. You've got zero chance to beat San Francisco. Next.
Great. That's wonderful as a segue for my next question, because you've already answered it. Fourth down.
Yeah.
Better chance of happening. Buffalo wins the Super Bowl, or Detroit makes the Super Bowl.
Oh, Buffalo wins the Super Bowl is the answer to that. They have a much better chance. Now, had they not gotten all banged up too, man, they have too many injuries too on the defensive side of the ball. Their defense was playing pretty well, and obviously they had figured it out. I like them to narrowly defeat Kansas City this week, and I think that's a really good game, of course. But Buffalo could do that, could get there, and Josh Allen's a special talent. But man, they're all beat up. Another disappointing end to a Buffalo Bills season. Where have we heard that before?
Well, we could hear it on Sunday. I know Director Ben was pissed off because, and you might not know this on the radio side, but he works with us on Warchant TV, coach speak, and all those kinds of things. But he's a diehard Lions fan. And for some reason, they were rolling out a bunch of their starters in Week 17 against the Vikings, and they lost 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
For no reason.
That was dumb.
Yeah.
For as fun as that coach is and unlikable as he is, he does some dumb in-game things. He does some dumb things, period. But he's just really likable. He is. I mean, there's no getting around it. I like the dude. But yeah, that's a toughie. Hey, once again, Go check out knollretirement.com. Make sure that you are doing the right thing and consulting with my team over there at Artisan Financial Strategies and utilizing their combined 30-plus years of planning experience for your financial future. knollretirement.com. Make it happen. Come back and listen to my mom brag about kicking my ass this year.
Your local news now.
A construction worker was killed Thursday afternoon in Wakulla County after being struck by a vehicle while on the job. A gray Honda minivan drifted off onto the right shoulder of Bloxham Cutoff Road near Page Oliver Road, where personnel were working on a construction site. The minivan struck a 39-year-old Tallahassee man working there just before 2:30 p.m. He was transported to a Tallahassee Memorial Hospital where he was pronounced deceased. Were hit. The driver, a 76-year-old man from the Panhandle, and his 71-year-old female passenger were also not injured. It's not clear why the driver drifted off the road. Florida Highway Patrol is investigating the case, and charges for the driver are pending. Macy's confirmed it is closing their store at Governor Square Mall. Severance benefits will be available for eligible colleagues. Customers will be able to continue shopping online at Macy's.com and on the Macy's mobile app. The clearance sale will begin in January and will run for approximately 8 to 12 weeks. This is Rachel Lene with your Real Talk 93.3 local news update. Brought to you by Macklemore Systems, Tallahassee's go-to Mac store. Check them out online at McLemoreSystems.com.
This is meteorologist Paul Trombley with your Real Talk 93.3 weather update. A hard freeze watch begins at 1 a.m. Sunday morning. A wind chill advisory begins at 1 a.m. tomorrow morning. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon with a high of 65. Northwest winds 10 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy again tonight. Lows dip down to about 29. This report is brought to you by the Lawn Johns. For all your landscaping and lawn care needs, visit thelawnjohns.com. Right now, it's 67 degrees.
Orthopedic pain and injury deserves effective treatment options now, so you feel better fast. Whether you have joint pain that won't subside or an urgent orthopedic injury, we are the specialists to get you back on your feet. And there's only one thing better than fast care: expert care. We believe you deserve both. TOC, only experts. Learn more at teamtoc.com.
So everybody knows, Eddie, that you are a spectacular cook. Of course they know that. If they go into Bumpers, the food is always good. I mean, everything on the menu. Everything at Gordo's is delicious. I always, of course, get the bungalow chungla, as I call it.
The bungalow chung, Jeff?
Is that what is the pork?
The bungalow chung, Jeff.
Okay, the bungalow chungla. It's delicious. All these things, all the items, everything you do, a master cook. But, sir, I would ask you, what is a skill that you possess that you're particularly proud of, that nobody would know, and that you could share with us here?
Growing hair, Jeff. Growing hair.
You're an asshole. Gordo's, bringing the flavor and flair of Cuban food to Tallahassee since 1996.
The Jeff Cameron Show is a production of the Warchant.com Multimedia Network. Check out Warchant.com today for the
But first, if you would, let's cue it up and bring Mama on in here, and let's find out which of the winners she has today, because they're all winners these days. All winners.
And now for another edition of the Family Pick. Nick.
Go to your room! Ma, the meatloaf!
Take it away, Jeffrey.
All right, Mama, you're up 7. This thing's wrapped up. You have won, and heavy is the head that wears the crown. That's all I'll tell you. It's going to be interesting.
I know it, but I
I'm particularly proud of myself because, there was a time this season I think I was about 5 down.
And I took it for granted. I got cocky. I stopped concentrating. And look at this, how it comes back to bite me in the ass. I thought, ho-hum, another year, another season-long victory over Mother. But not this time.
Mom had other ideas. I'm telling you what, I couldn't believe last week the two we had different. I won them both. I was like, holy smokes, how did that happen?
Especially if you watch the Lions game, they shouldn't have won, but they did. They found a way. Yes.
I know. And at least, I like the Lions. So, I won't like them this week, but I do actually like them. So, and I have said, if the Bucs don't prevail, I will root for the Lions the whole rest of the way. Although they're then going to have to go on, and who are they going to have to play? San Fran or somebody?
Yeah, they'll play San Fran, and that'll be the end of their season. Yes.
Yes, probably so. But you never know. Teams get hot at the right time and everything, and you just don't know.
You don't. That's why they play them. It's cool. That's why you don't make assumptions about who should be in a playoff or not.
I know. Well, you're exactly right about that. And listen, before I forget, I was listening to your segment before, and you're talking about Clark and his allowance and everything. I think that you should tie it into his grades and tell him if he gets whatever his grades are, brings it up a letter grade or more or whatever, then he'll get like $5.
I've tried to motivate him in every facet of his life with this idea of a financial reward. It doesn't work. He's just a bad kid.
No, he's not. He is not. But he is financially motivated, evidently. And if he wants to buy these shoes and hoodies and all these things, I don't know. If he thought you were serious, he might just straighten up and fly right.
I don't know. Nothing seems to get his focus. 13, annoying. Really, it's the worst age. I wish you would have taken him this year and raised him.
Listen, I went through that 3 or 4 times.
I know. I just didn't realize how bad all 13-year-olds are. There's not a good 13-year-old.
Not a good one in the bunch.
No.
I'm telling you. And 14 is a little better, but not that whole age right there. But usually once they get to high school, they kind of straighten out. I don't exactly know why that is, but yeah, that 13 age is just terrible.
It's almost over. Almost over. Get his ass into high school, please. Yeah, Bryce has been a breeze ever since high school. Hell, he was kind of easier to deal with anyhow. But yeah, that's where we're at. All right.
Yeah.
For people that don't realize, I love my son. But 13-year-olds are really
13. You just want to skip over that age altogether.
I think people probably would be surprised. One of the ways that Clark remains amongst the living is how often I am able to ignore the asinine things that he says and does. I'm letting people understand that the real trick to parenting is sometimes pretending that what your kid didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, that is true. That is true. And you have to pick your battles. Sometimes you get ready to go, now that's not,
Yeah.
Then you go, well, no, that's just a minor thing. I got to wait till there's something bigger.
Oh, and most assuredly something bigger will happen in the near future. So you're right. You will get your opportunity. All right.
Oh, my Lord. I'm telling you.
Here we go. We got to do the actual picks here.
I know we do.
It's a formality. Houston at Baltimore.
Yes, I'm picking Baltimore.
I'll take Houston.
Oh. Okay, you do that.
All right. Green Bay at San Francisco.
Yes, I'm taking San Fran.
Wow, I'll take Green Bay. This is stunning. Tampa Bay at Detroit.
Now, this is a hard one for me, and I really want to pick the Bucs in the worst way, but I am going to pick the Lions.
You're on the wrong side of being a good fan. Let's go Buckaroos. I've got the Bucs.
As you said last week, I'm going to root like hell that I lose that game. I would be so excited if they won, but I don't know, in Detroit and the way that that team is really playing well and their defense is really good. And so I don't know. I want to pick them, but I just can't.
Their defense is not really good, Mom. We're going to score plenty of points, but we're not going to stop them from scoring. Kansas City at Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Well, it looks like I got the Chiefs. My goodness. Can you believe that I have 4 different from you?
Oh my gosh! Well, that's the only way way you can get close, huh?
I have taken the road team in every game. It's an interesting strategy coming into the weekend.
Interesting strategy. And listen, you know what? Like I said, at this stage of the game, you just never know what could happen. Now, I actually think though the Green Bay pick may be the least likely.
Oh, it feels like the least likely. Yeah, it feels like it.
It does, because the KC Buffalo game, I mean, I think that's kind of a toss-up, although they are playing at Buffalo, and I didn't realize that they said Patrick Mahomes has never played a playoff game away from Kansas City.
Yeah, he's been very fortunate. He's lived a blessed life. Now, he's a very, very good player, and he's an all-time great player, and he deserves all his flowers. But, man, he's had it pretty good. He's had a brilliant offensive mind to go play for, and for the most part in his career, he's had a loaded offense to play with. Now, that's not true right now. No. So, but he's had like Hall of Famers and all-pro players all around him and a really good coach, and it was a nice situation that he took full advantage of, to his credit. But also, they played all those games at home. So,
I know. It's quite amazing. I really do think, with no travel and everything involved and a pro crowd and all of that. Yeah, I did not know that that statistic or whatever until I heard it on SportsCenter or whatever.
All right, Mama, I love you and best of luck. It's going to be tough when you think back. Golly, I pick against the Bucs, and now here I am.
I am rooting all the way for the Bucs, but we'll see. But at least if the Lions do win, like I said, I can at least root for them going forward. I'll have to see. If they lose, then I'm not sure. Then I think I'm going with Buffalo.
Well, you root for whoever you got to root for, so we'll see.
All right, sweetie. I love you. Have a good weekend. Stay warm.
I will. Love you too, Mom. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, there's Mom's picks. There we go. I'm going to laugh when I win all four of these games. When I go undefeated with the road teams winning and the playoffs are in shambles, it's chaos. It's the Bay of Pigs, the Bucs and Packers in the NFC Championship game.
Hey, you should go. If they make that, you should go next weekend.
Yeah, I know I should. That's crazy. Can you imagine? And by the way, I might NLZFN. I'm a Knowles fan. I may very well just have fun with it and sprinkle a little pizza money on that wager, that parlay that I just put out there. The four road teams.
You can call yourself Four Dogs Cameron if it happens. Well, Four Dogs Cameron hit this weekend. That's Marty, Knowles fan. We met him at
That's right. That's what it is. That's right. I forgot about that.
15-0. You know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe a little Four Dogs comes in here with a bit of a saunter on Monday. What's up, everybody? Four Dogs going on vacation here soon.
It's funny that it's almost like when you're on a heater in poker. Like no matter what, you can't lose, because if Four Dogs Cameron exists on Monday, by the time we get to Friday for the call, I say, "Mom, make your picks. Go ahead.
Yeah,
pick whatever team you want. Pick whatever team you want.
Doesn't matter. I'm taking the opposite, and it's going to win.
It's all coming up, Cameron. It'll be 6 Dogs Cameron after this weekend."
Yeah, I've been on a really good run. If I sprinkle pizza money on this, it's going to end. I think it's going to end. Although I could just take all the points and have some fun with it that way. I might do it. I'm going
to tabulate what the parlay would net you for 4 money lines this weekend. Give me a second.
Oh, you're doing 4 money lines?
You got to. I mean, you're playing to win in this particular contest. So
yeah, the way we're doing it. All right, I can do it too while we're doing it. This is great radio. Let's see here. Money lines. I'm taking the underdogs. Boom.
It's 14,000 to 1. So $10 would pay almost $1,500.
Wow. I am gonna put some pizza money on it.
I mean, why not? That doesn't feel like 15,000 to 1 that the Four Dogs would hit, does it?
So you want a $15 bet with all 4 dogs on the money line. $2,221 for a $15 bet.
Yeah, that seems accurate. I mean, I'm doing DraftKings here, but yeah.
How about I sprinkle little pizza's not that cheap. Pizza's like $25. So $25, and I'm walking home. Well, $30.
Well, yeah, up here.
You live in New York. Yeah, you're getting screwed. Here you go. $25. I win $3,701. Well, Four Dogs be walking in here with a gold chain. Oh, that'd be amazing. Well, I got to do it now. I mean, now you guys know. I'll throw 25 at it just to be funny. And then you know that if it hits, I just won over $3,700.
Yeah. You should give it all to the battle's end at that point.
Where are we drinking? Where are we going?
Give it all to the battle's end at that point.
Man, how great would that be, man? Well, I'm not going to give it to the battle's end. Ingram, I love you, but I'm not giving my $3,700 on my pizza money bet to the battle's end. It's going to be me playing golf somewhere with you, drinking a margarita.
Think about how much Zaxby's we could have with that much money. You think about all the platters we could buy on that.
Too much, Tom. It'd be too much. Zaxby's already a great value. And now here I would be throwing all of this money at a place that is heaven on earth, but they treat their customers so well. You get so much Zaxby's for very little. That's just too much Zaxby's. If I walked into one of the 702 area Zaxby's and threw down $3,700+ and said, give me all the fingers you got, they might put a call into Danny, who's a proud Golden Chief booster for over the last 19 years, and say, who is this guy? And they'd say, that's 4 Dogs Cameron, and he's ready to eat. That's how that would go.
You would have to put the fingers in a giant bowl, a dog bowl that says 4 dogs.
They would take a picture of me leaving said Zaxby's with all of those fingers, and they'd say, and the man wasn't wearing pants, Danny. And the man wasn't wearing pants. I'd say, that's all right. Let that grease wash over these legs.
Oh, jeez.
Good work out of you. Good work, Matthew. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We'll be back with you on Monday. Peace.